everyone. I am Terry Kane, and this is Spotlight on Guilford. Guilford and the Civil War is one of the signature events of Guilford's 375th anniversary celebration. We are fortunate today to have its organizers in the GCTV studio. So I would like to introduce these folks to you now. And over here we have Brian McGlone, welcome.
Thank you.
Who is vice chairperson of the 375th Anniversary Celebration Committee, and also the liaison, I understand, with the Civil War event, which we will be discussing today. Brian is a 34-year resident of Guilford and has raised 3 daughters in the Guilford school system. And then we have Tracy Tomaselli here, who is a genealogist and historian. She and her husband own Guilford Glass, so welcome, Tracy.
Thank you.
Candy Carl, I'm jumping around over here to the end of the desk. Candy is directing Civil War plays for the event, and I can't wait to hear about that. She will also be performing vintage dances in the evening of the event. And then Tara Melvin, on my right, is liaison to the Civil War reenactors. She's also president of the Newcomers Club and has 3 children, 2 of which are twin boys who are at Guilford Lakes. So welcome to you all, and I'm excited to begin our conversation, and I'd like to start with you, Brian.
Thank you.
So tell us about this event, where and when, the Civil War, Guilford and the Civil War. Where and when is this taking place?
Well, first off, it's Saturday, May 31st here in 2014, coming around the corner. Most of it is on the green, in and around the green, on the green, churches around the green. Some of the streets will be used, so it's predominantly downtown.
And what are the schedule of events? What's going on that day?
We have a really comprehensive day. We start at 11 o'clock in the morning, formally at 11 in the morning. We will go to 7 o'clock at night, and throughout the day you will see a lot of different activities. Of course, we talked a little bit about the military encampment. That'll be going on essentially all throughout the day, and Tara will tell you a lot more about that, the kinds of activities you can see. Dudley Farm will be there displaying an open-air market. They'll be doing weaving, yarn spinning, blacksmith, things that you would see in that period as well. We have a couple of horses and carriages. There will be one going up and down Park Street that people can get on and ride, and there will be another one on Boston Street coming from basically the Bethel Church down Boston Street. So we're going to suggest people park in the Bethel parking lot, the Bethel Church lot, and the Griswold House, and they can jump on a wagon and ride down the street, get a feel for that. We're working with the GPA, Guilford Preservation Alliance, and they'll be, as part of our program, we'll have a heritage tour bus running from about 1 to 4. I think it's going to be probably a 40-45 minute tour around Guilford, looking at the historic homes, many of the homes of our soldiers and people that were involved during the war. You'll hear from Candy more about the vignettes, the programs we're going to have in the church that talks and features key Guilford people. Let's see, so that we have several different periods of plays, a lot of music. We've got the 8th grade Concordia Orchestra is going to be playing some music, and we've got Abraham Lincoln is going to be on the program with us. We have a group from the Shoreline Youth Symphony Orchestra that is going to be playing period music. Tom Callanan, the Connecticut Balladeer will be playing some music at another time. And then we have our closing program. William Boughton, the New Haven Symphony Orchestra conductor, also a Guilford resident. He couldn't be with us today, but he's putting together a program, comprehensive program that will include the Heritage Choir of New Haven, gospel group. We've got the Guilford High School Voices, a band called Spare Parts will be playing backup music. Candy's Vintage Dancers will be performing and showing us how they all did the fun dances during that period. And then we've got a fife and drum group, the Connecticut Valley Field Music Group. So you can come throughout the day the various vignettes, walking around, talking with Tracy will have a history area. So a lot of things to do, very complete day.
And so it's 11 a.m. to when does it end?
7 o'clock, around
About
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, so
Yes.
a full day of really important historical information and celebration about our history.
Yeah, absolutely.
On Saturday, May 31st. That sounds very exciting, so let's dig in a little deeper to what else is going on here. In your committee, you have a mission, and you've tied this in with the town's goals and kind of what we're all about as a town. Can you tell me a little bit about how this event fits in with the mission of the celebration committee?
Well, first off, we have a very nice mission on our website, and it's probably more elaborate than I could repeat. But right now, our focus was to have an entertaining day, or all of our events would be entertaining, but they would be educational. And you're going to see that a lot here with the music, the dancing, the historical perspective. So we're combining a lot of the educational and entertaining aspects of it. But we have such a rich history in Guilford, and we wanted that to come out. We wanted to involve, there are many local Guilford people that are involved in various parts of it, and we're bringing outside entertainers or people to be involved as well. So it's really something geared for our residents for sure, but we're trying to also attract some outside visitors to town and make all of them well aware of the great things we have here in Guilford. So it kind of fits into all those pieces.
Good, wonderful. Well, let's go on with the reenactment or encampment. And Tara, you are the liaison with the reenactors. So this is an encampment on the green. That's one of the events, and it is about Civil War life and culture. So what is that going to involve?
Okay, well, we are going to have an encampment, both a military and civilian encampment. We have Company F from the 14th Connecticut Volunteer Infantry coming. So this is a living history and preservation organization that portrays the original 14th Connecticut Volunteer Infantry, and they're going to have a camp out doing some military drills to show us what life was like with soldiers. They're going to have cooking demonstrations, also have a medical doctor reenacting being a surgeon at the time during wartime. Some of us are excited about that, others maybe not so much.
So if you have anything wrong with it and you want it fixed,
I'm not volunteering for that one.
The old cell
Right.
phones.
And we are going to have a town ball game on the green,
really?
which is kind of a predecessor to or like Civil War era baseball. So we'll have some reenactors, and that's a chance for kids and other willing adults to get involved in a game there. So it's really just setting up an encampment, taking up a good part of the green, I think, just so that people, there will be a schedule of kind of events with them, short events, short programs you can go along the way to hear see some demonstrations, but also just a place you can visit and people can interact with all of the encampment crew, ask questions, and they're just representing this true group from Connecticut that was actually very famous in its time. They marched and fought with Lincoln's army, and they're just really, I think we're really excited to have them here. Come and stay with us.
So the reenactors, where are they from? Are they all from this area or Connecticut? Is there anybody from Guilford? They're not. There's no one in that infantry right now who is from Guilford, I don't believe, but everyone is from Connecticut in this volunteer organization. Right.
They are bringing some friends with them from some other New England locations, so we will have a good-sized crew on the green, maybe 30 plus people, tents, and camp set up on the green. But it's all mostly Connecticut, all New England based.
Right, and so it'll be period costume,
Period costumes, and they have, it's not just, the military aspect. Will be women there depicting what life was like for the women who may have stayed behind, and kind of covering all sorts of life in that. So they're an encampment crew, but they focus on living history. So
right. So with the green and the surrounding areas sort of transformed to this Civil War era, visitors, residents, can we dress up too?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
We're
Join in.
We're anticipating that, yes.
Okay. Okay.
When
I
the
like
word gets out.
right. I like the fact that you can participate, not just kind of
Yes.
come and watch. So,
So-
I think that's really going to be interesting.
They will be there all day, so at the beginning it's maybe a little more programmed things with them, but then
Yeah.
they'll be kind of setting some of the scene of making the green really, or Guilford in that part looking
Right.
a lot like we're in the Civil War at that time. So
Did I hear you say something about food? Will there be
they're doing cooking demonstrations.
cooking demonstrations? Oh, okay. And so we can do eating demonstrations along the way.
Right.
Okay, good.
Which every good soldier would have done.
Would have done, absolutely. I keep kicking our displays here, which I'd like to get up so for the audience to see here. So Tracy, let's talk about what kind of historical information will be displayed on the green. And as you talk, if you want me to hold these up, let me know when.
Okay. Well, I brought some pictures just to go over. Everybody's seen the Civil War monument on the green, and growing up in Guilford, I always knew that these guys that are listed on the monument, they died in that war, but I never really knew who they were or how they died. I just assumed they died in the battles they're listed under, but that's not really the case. About half of them died in battle or from wounds received in battle, but half of them died from diseases or other causes. And around the monument, we're going to have 4 large displays with information about each of the 56 men. And this is a sample of one of the displays. Raphael Ward Benton, he was 41 years old when he left his second wife and 3 sons to fight in the war, and within 2 months he was dead. He was shot in the neck at the Battle of Antietam. He was just a farmer living on East River Road at the time before he went off to war. And when he was shot, he walked 20 miles to a field hospital where he ended up eventually dying from blood loss and fatigue, and such a sad story. And then we have a younger one, William Nelson Bartlett, called Willie. He lived at 111 Goose Lane in town. His father was an abolitionist who hid fugitive slaves in their cellar as part of the Underground Railroad. And Willie enlisted just after he turned 18, and he served for a couple years, and he was shot through the heart in a battle. So that was sad, just after he turned 20. These are some pictures of men. There's 56 men on the monument, but over 300 men served. There's so many different stories about them. They each have unique information to tell, and visitors can come and hear those stories and learn about all the men. We're also going to have historical documents from the National Archives that have never been before displayed, and it's going to be such a large scale of information on these men, paying tribute to their service. This is a sample of an enlistment document. And then this is a sample of prisoner war of record, Charles G. Lee. And all the names from town, Fowlers, Bentons, Bartletts, Bishops. I mean, that just, everybody is still around and they can hear about their ancestors. This is newspaper articles, for actual newspaper articles from 1861 to 65 will be on display as well. They tell about the soldiers, what was happening down there, and that was the way that the town got their news. And some of them are funny too. This is about plucky Major Heathcote Landon, who his heroic efforts, he took up the gun from one of the other guys and jumped over a fence and captured a couple rebels, and so he was a plucky sergeant. So it's kind of fun.
Early Facebook.
Yeah, early Facebook. And so there's also going to be information about the town, and for example, how mail was received, where the post office was in town, who the postmaster was, and again, news articles and other displays. Guilford had, there was African Americans living in town at the time, just a few, and one of them did enlist and served up in Massachusetts because Connecticut hadn't allowed them to enlist yet. There were 21 African Americans who served for Guilford, meaning they weren't all living in Guilford at the time. And 4 of them who died are listed on the monument. So there'll be information about all of them as well.
Good.
And one thing in researching this information that I had never seen published ever before is that Guilford had an American Indian who served for Guilford. and he was part Narragansett, part Pequot Indian. And he served, and he was wounded at the Battle of Chapin's Farm. So that's, something that had never ever been said about the Guilford men. There were also substitutes who served. So out of the over 300 men that served, there were not all Guilford men. They did get some substitutes. And then also in researching, I found an interesting news article about this fella, Elijah Saunders, who he stole a pair of horses, a team of horses from Guilford. And he brought them to New York to sell them off, and he was tracked down by the Guilford sheriff and the owner of the horses and found in New York. They brought him back to Guilford, and he was given the opportunity to either enlist or jail time. So he took the bounty money, he enlisted, and then he deserted. But,
Oh my gosh.
so there's so many different stories to tell. There was younger boys who could not enlist as soldiers from town. They served as drummer boys, valets, officers, waiters, and their records were not kept, so we don't really know how many from Guilford served, but we do know of 2 that served and died during the war, so their stories will also be available at the time. Information about each of the years during the war for Guilford. I've researched newspaper articles, so there's going to be a lot about what was going on in Guilford. There'll be information about the merchants in town, just what was going on, the news of the day, so people can learn about it. Guilford had an amazing amount of support, but they also had copperheads and those who opposed the war. And this news article here is about the Confederate flag being raised in North Guilford just after the Federal defeat at Bull Run. So there was both sides in town, but there was an overwhelming support for the men. And special town committees were held to specify exactly what kind of support that soldiers and families would get. Guilford also had a volunteer aid society, and they would send supplies down to the soldiers in camp. Women also played a very important role. Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, she had first cousins who still lived in Guilford. And during her life, earlier on in her life, she lived in Guilford for several different short periods of time. And Hattie Foote Hawley, she and her sister Kate, they went down to the camps and they helped take care of the wounded soldiers. And she was very involved with the war efforts. Women also left behind. This is a picture of one of the soldiers who died and is on the monument. He proposed to this young woman, and she turned him down. Very sad story. And children that come to the day, or adults, can color pictures. We'll have some coloring book pages and word search and checkerboards and other activities for everyone to do. Anyone who's interested can sign up and do a sample enlistment document so we can swear you in to service. We're going to have a large-scale map up around the green, and it's going to identify we're over 140 soldiers, I think we've identified so far, where they lived around town. So everybody can see this big map and see if a soldier lived in their home.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And then we also have the bus tour that Brian mentioned, and it's a 10-mile, Dennis Cullerton is going to be doing that. It's a 10-mile loop around a certain part of town, identifying where over 50 soldiers lived, and that's a $10 fee. There is a fee for that.
But most everything else is free of charge for everybody.
Everything else is free of charge. It's going to be an amazing, comprehensive day between the history, the tour bus, and everything, the entertainment. So,
and I think what's so special is I'm hearing that from you that most of this, or a lot of this, is new information. This is information that you, Tracy, have dug up for this particular event. So I think that's well worth everybody coming to learn more about the history that we didn't know about before, too. And let's just show these because I think this is just so beautifully put together. If I can just hold this up and get it on camera here.
Frederick Douglass addressed the men, the African Americans who served in the 29th and 30th Connecticut just before they left the state. And it's a very famous speech that he gave them.
And then you have another poster here, and this is about?
That's Raphael Ward Benton, the 41-year-old who died at the Battle of Antietam. We're going to display posters like these around the homes to identify where the soldiers lived. And if we have a picture of them, we'll put the picture on there as well.
So an incredible amount of work to turn our town into a living history museum. I mean, the whole town sounds like it's going to become this living history museum with some really wonderful placards out just to let people know very clearly where, what, when all of these events happened during the Civil War era. So thank you, Tracy, for all of your work. Candy, we need to talk about the plays. I am intrigued that plays are going to be part of this event. So I'd like to know, who wrote these plays? What are they about? Who's going to be in them?
Well, some of the people that Tracy had done a lot of research on were prime candidates for the dramatization of their lives. And we're taking 10, 15 minutes of storytelling to whet people's appetite about these people. They're very fascinating characters, as Tracy was saying, and it's because she had done so much work on digging them up that we can flesh them out in a dramatic way. And Toby Armour has written the vignettes. I start rehearsals April 1st with the actors that are from all over the state, and they're going to be portraying some of these characters. And they were really characters. They're everyday people of that time period. And so we're giving them a little bit of a glimpse of what their life was like at the time of the Civil War from their perspective on the battlefield or near the battlefield or in the hospital. And it's going to just add another layer of not only interpreting Guilford history, but storytelling technique, because we've got almost every avenue with this event covered in the way to share history. You've got the enactments where they're talking in third person about this is how they did this back then. Then you've got first person and the characterizations of these real Guilford people. That's going to be at the Christian Science Church, and so it's a very focused, really dramatic readings of these things. We've got John Brown coming to establish his abolitionist leanings, because he's a Connecticut, was a Connecticut resident, and leading up into it. And we've got Michael Loomis, who is a Guilford resident, who is portraying the man about town, the MC, the town crier, the guy who is going to point you all in the right direction. And one of the reasons why I signed on to this, because I do a lot of different living history things. I work with living historians like Colonial Williamsburg and Old Sturbridge Village and Mystic Seaport to get theater and acting techniques for their first-person interpreters. And because they have the history, and then they need to learn the techniques on how to share that. And so I really applaud the Guilford 375th Commission in this particular event for reaching out to interpretive opportunities like that to tell these stories. Because it is, as they said, very comprehensive. And by the end of the day, whether people are from Guilford or they've never been to Guilford before, they're going to walk away with having really memorable, there's going to be something for every person, every child, every grandfather, every lady is going to have an opportunity to take something away from this event because it's so comprehensive. And of course, coming from a theater background and doing a lot of living history, it's the great culmination of two of my great loves, is the history and the dramatics, as it were.
Right.
Yeah. I've got actors coming from all over the state to portray these characters, and it takes a certain personality of an individual to want to get the backstory. This isn't just, okay, tell me, go two steps left and stand over there. They're all getting layers of these research documents that Tracy has amassed, and each one of them are going to be doing their homework. So these may be short 10, 15-minute vignettes, but they're going to be incredibly deep, incredibly rich, and hopefully everyone will walk out of these experiences saying, I want to know more about those people. I want to hear more about others that were just like them.
And what times are these going to be put on?
They start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, between 2 and 4:30. They are going to be specifically at the church, so people will know that if they want to see the vignettes, that's the place to go to experience
So they'll
them.
rotate, a number of them will keep rotating?
No,
or-
they're one at a time,
Okay.
and we've got William Norton, Ward Benton, Hattie Holly, Toby Trout, which is a really interesting character because he was one of those people that Tracy was talking about who was paid to substitute for someone to go into the Army, and Uriah Parmalee, and then of course we've got our town crier, and each one of them has they're a different age, they have a different experience, these characters leading up to their participation in the Civil War. So between all of these different characters, you're going to discover a lot of different outlooks, a lot of different experiences of the Civil War. It's not just one type of soldier's life. It's going to be a variety of them. And they are also going to be available to people to have conversations with, and of course Tracy's going to be available if people want to know more about that. So she's going to be the go-to person in the middle of the green that we're going to be
For questions.
For
Yeah,
questions?
for
Will there be a special booth or display or
We'll
something?
have a
for
table
you?
with a
With
tent.
a table,
yeah.
okay. Oh, that'll be wonderful. And then the
Yes.
characters,
Yes.
I understand they're going to be roaming around?
What we're
or
going
how
to do is we're going to have them roam around a little bit before, so people will notice them, and then they'll go and tell their story, and then they'll be available after for a little bit while people discuss. And this is one of the key things too that's very interesting that I've discovered working in this kind of a format, is that the audience will want to talk to the actor about portraying that character. What's it like to put on that skin, to portray someone that is so different than your 21st century self.
Yeah.
So there's another element to it as well.
Well, Candy, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for being here with us.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be in costume all day with my husband, who is
Oh, good.
one of the dancers. And when we finally get to do the performance in the evening with the polkas and mazurkas and waltzes and all that kind of thing, it'll be a grand celebration of all the work that everyone has done leading up to the May 31st event.
Great, wonderful. That's wonderful. So, Brian, another word from you, or two. Do we still need sponsors for the 375th celebration?
Good point. We always need sponsors. We have had many generous people come forward, businesses and people, but we do have a group of what we call the diamond level sponsors. There were 5 that got on early: Bishop's, East River Energy, Guilford Savings Bank, Page's Hardware, and Yale New Haven Hospital. Again, if you go to our website, you'll see a lot of other familiar names people have donated. If you look at the banners we have around town, those are part of our sponsorship. The banners can still be purchased. That's a $600 contribution if it's the banner only. People that started early, we started hanging those in October of 13. They're going to go through March of 15. So sooner you get on, you'll still get 9 months or so of good visibility there. They've really brightened up our town. In our case, on this 375 event, for example, we had some private donors that donated money just to go towards the program. Guilford Land Rover was very generous. They just sponsored our horse and carriages. They came forward and did that just last week. So we're still, if people want to come forward, we'll try to identify an opportunity for them. We're not afraid to take anybody's money, and there's a lot of different ways. And we have a program booklet that will be focused on this event, that all of our sponsors will be recognized. We have our website that they will be recognized on the website. We've got a lot of PR stories, public relations about this, that they'll be featured in that as well.
You said a program booklet. Are you taking ads for that booklet? Is that another way to be involved or not?
The booklet itself really doesn't have ads.
Okay.
We're recognizing the sponsors that have contributed to date. They will be in there. It's more of a schedule of events that's going on.
Right.
It'll be there'll be maps of where the parking is going to take place. Of course, you can't have a good event without having food. So we'll be listing, and we're working and talking with our restaurants on and around the green about maybe having some special food.
That
One
would
of
be
the
great.
one of the churches, for example, just came forward yesterday. They want to have a pancake breakfast early Saturday morning, so we're going to be having that. And many of the other restaurants are either going to put a special together or come forward with something. There'll be some food from the Dudley Farm, for example, that you could be able to buy. So food, music, dancing,
Yeah, it's everything.
party time.
And if someone wants to get involved, there's plenty of opportunities for volunteering as well. We have a variety of different locations where people will be needed to assist and just to let people know where things are and point them in the right direction and just be part of the fun day. And they can also go to the website and check it out and get in contact if they want to volunteer.
So how do they contact you? Website is what?
The 375 website is guilfordct375.org. And anybody can go on there, and there's a spot for volunteer signups. And Tara is good enough to try to track and coordinate our volunteer group.
Okay.
And it's not just volunteers for the day of. We also, need some help leading up to it. There's lots of setup, as you can imagine, getting
Right.
all of this together. So if lots of opportunities. So we would love to hear from people.
I think a good point to
volunteer.
that too. While we talk about the full day going from 11 to 7, if somebody has 2 hours, 3 hours, 4,
Exactly.
we'll use them as much or little as they need. So
Exactly.
we don't want people. And some of the planning an event or planning in advance might be a couple hours that they need to do something, help us to get set up. So we want to involve as many locals as we can, and volunteering through schools, all ages. We need volunteers.
Anything else? Any other signature events you want to mention, or anything else that we haven't covered you'd like to mention before we sign off?
Well, if I can, I'll just put it
Yeah.
in perspective. I mean, from the 375 committee, we had 5 signature events that were planned. The Generations Jubilee that occurred December 31st was our first. We have the Crystal Ball coming up March 29th, which will probably be completed by the time this airs. Then ours is the third event. And then looking at, really, it'll just be the next weekend. It's when you think June, it seems a long ways away, but June 6th, 7th, and 8th is the Covenant and Trail weekend, and we have the Covenant Stone. If you go down in front of the Whitfield Museum, there's going to be a big piece of granite put in that has the Guilford Covenant on it, reflecting our 375-year history. And then, again, talking about some of our natural resources, we have the trailhead that is ending or starting, if you will, at Chittenden Park.
Okay.
So that is an official national trail that's being recognized. It runs up into New Hampshire. It's over 200 miles long, and forget exactly, it's 20 plus miles, I believe, is in Guilford. So that's going to be happening. And then in the fall, we have a fall muster that's planned. So those are our signature events that our committee is spearheading.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of other, the libraries picked up, and they're now doing a 375 history series. We have businesses in town that are picking up and doing things, and we're encouraging that to happen as well. I mean,
Right,
the Rotary, when they did their road race, they had 375 celebration.
Right.
The fall parade will be, there will be a piece geared towards the 375 celebration.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're trying to make all of 2014 a good party time.
And you're doing a good job at it. We do need a whole year to celebrate such a wonderful place and such a special place as Guilford is. And especially this event with the encampment, historical reenactors, plays, the music. It really promises to be just an exceptional educational opportunity for us all, and really a not to be missed experience. And also, it's a chance to be part of the Guilford community and a part of the celebration of who we are and where we are in history, where we've come from, and where we're going to. So I want to thank you, my guests, here today. Thanks to the 375th Anniversary Celebration Committee. And thank you to everyone who's working so hard to bring all of these events together. So stay involved, Guilford, and thank you for watching GC TV.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Thank you, Terry.